なってください。
挨拶した方がいい。よろしくお願いします。
よろしくお願いします。
カメラの方にちょっと視線をね。
はい。
座っていただいても大丈夫
大丈夫ですか。はい。座ります。
はい、お付けになってください。カメラの方に視線をお願いします。
カメラ多くてどのカメラに？
はい、こっち。手を上げていただけると、視線を送りやすいと思います。
はい。はい。はい。はい、ありがとうございます。
はい。Good morning. Welcome to the FCCJ. I'm your moderator, Andy Sharp. A few months ago, my kids were watching YouTube, watching some YouTubers playing video games and talking. And I noticed there were two white guys there speaking in perfect Japanese. And so I asked my kids, who are these guys? They said, oh, they're Sawayan, these two Ukrainian guys. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And this was like a few weeks before the invasion of their country. And then I watched a little bit more of these YouTube shows, and they were talking about, events back home, what was going on, the situation there, and their families. All this while playing Mario Kart. So the two people, these two well-known YouTubers are Sawa and Jan Tokachov. Sawa, the elder brother, he was a professional basketball player here. He came to Japan with his family, with his parents, aged 4. And Jan, who's 20, has lived his whole life in Japan. So as I said, they're known as Sawayan. They have two YouTube channels, Sawayan Channel and Sawayan Games, both with roughly around 1 million subscribers. Maybe they're the two best known siblings from Ukraine after the Klitschko brothers. They've used this platform to raise awareness of the situation in Ukraine for young Japanese, and have also used the platform to ask people to donate and give some money to support their country through the Ukrainian embassy. So just a reminder, please keep your phones switched off during the press conference. We'll have a short speech from Jan, and if I can remind you to keep your masks on as well whilst during the press conference, but you can take it off to speak. So without further ado, Jan will give a short introduction. お願いします。
やっぱり始まった。その瞬間、僕の頭の中は真っ白になった。2022年2月22日、キエフにいる父親からその一言だけが書かれたメールが届いた。それはロシアのウクライナに対する軍事侵攻開始を意味するものだった。何が起きているのか全く気持ちの整理ができないまま、僕はすぐに父親に電話をかけた。受話器の向こうから聞こえてくる父親の声には、今まで感じたことのない緊張感があった。
It's really begun. At that moment, my whole mind went blank. On February 22nd, 2002, a message from my father in Kiev came with just one comment. That was a message telling us of the beginning of the Russian military invasion of Ukraine. Not knowing what was happening and not being able to organize my thoughts at all, I called my father right away. His voice on the other end of the line was tense in a way that I had never felt or heard before.
父親の状況、親戚の状況、友人の状況、町の状況、 聞けるものはすべて聞きたかった。とりあえずは大丈夫だ。そう父親から言われ、僕は突然襲われた絶望感の中にわずかな安心感を覚えた。しかし、その日から僕のわずかな安心感は徐々に押しつぶされていくことになる。多くの命が犠牲となる終わりの見えない戦争が始まったからだ。
I wanted to ask him all that I could about how he was, how our relatives were, friends, and the city. My father said the words to me, "For now, we're fine." And within the sudden and overwhelming despair I was feeling, I was able to feel at least a small part of relief. However, that small sense of relief that was within me that day was gradually pushed away as the war, in which so many lives have been lost and an end is not yet in sight, had begun.
ウクライナ人の両親のもと、兄は4歳から日本で育ち、僕は日本で生まれ育った。兄は来日した当初、言葉も通じず、慣れない環境に苦しんだという。父親はそんな兄に、ウクライナ人であることを誇りに思え、そのような言葉をかけていた。この言葉は、日本で生まれ育った僕もよく父親から耳にした。当時はその言葉が意味するものを完全に理解することができず、何気なく受け取っていた。しかし、不思議とそれを聞くたびに、どこか心の底から力が湧き出るような感覚があったのを今でも覚えている。幼い頃の僕はその言葉の真意が分からずとも、何か壁にぶつかったときは自分に言い聞かせるようにしていた。
With both of our parents from Ukraine, my older brother was raised in Japan since he was 4 years old, and I myself was born and raised here in Japan. My brother says that upon first coming to Japan, without speaking the language, he struggled somewhat to adapt to this new environment. But our father would always say to him to have pride in being a Ukrainian. These words were also something he often said to me, although I was born and raised here in Japan. At the time, perhaps I could not completely understand the meaning of these words, and they somehow passed over me in a way. But now I remember that each time he said those words to us, in a strange way, I could feel a sense of power arising from the bottom of my heart. Although I may not have fully understood the meaning of these words when I was still very young, I found that I would repeat them to myself every time I came up against a difficulty.
そうして月日は流れ、兄は社会人となり、僕は大学に入学した。会社員として働いていた兄は、強いもどかしさを感じながら生活を送っていた。もっと自分のバックグラウンドを生かせる場所があるのではないか。もっと多くのことを日本という国に還元できるのではないか。その思いから、兄は YouTuber になることをある日決意する。俺、会社辞めて YouTuber になる。ヤンも一緒にやろう。日本という国が大好きだからこそ、日本という国の魅力をより多くの人に伝えたい。そのような思いで、僕らは YouTuber として動画を配信し始めた。
As time passed, my brother started work and I myself entered university. But as he was working at the company, he started to feel a sense of being somewhat, or feeling a little bit hopeless, wanting to find a way to make the most of his background more and to give something more back to this country, Japan. One day, he decided to become a YouTuber. He said to me, "I'm going to quit my job and become a YouTuber, Jan. Let's do it together." Because of his love for this country, Japan, or our love, we wanted to convey the different positive points of this country to even more people. And with this kind of idea in mind, we started to make and stream our YouTube videos.
YouTuber として活動を始めて2年が経ち、合計のチャンネル登録者数は200万人を超えた。この数は今でも実感が湧かないほどのものであり、感謝してもしきれない思いであった。ここからさらにこの活動を大きなものにし、より多くの人に自分たちの動画を見てほしい。そのような思いで胸を膨らませていたとき、それは始まった。ロシアの軍事侵攻だ。
2 years passed since we began our career as YouTubers, and now our channels combined have more than 2 million subscribers. This number is so large that it's hard to feel real in a way, and we're so grateful. It's hard to express how grateful we are for this. with the hope of wanting to make our activities even larger and have even more people view and subscribe to our videos. We had these kind of hopes in mind, and that was when it began, the Russian military invasion.
仕事の都合で2ヶ月ほど前にキエフに戻っていた父親からの連絡で、僕はそれを知ることになった。あまりにも突然の出来事だった。頭が真っ白になっていく感覚と同時に、とにかく父親の声が聞きたくなった。僕は急いで電話をかけた。父親はすぐに電話に出た。父親の声が聞こえる。それだけで僕はほっとした。しかし、父親の声は僕が今まで聞いてきたものとは違った。強い怒りや憎しみ、そして何かを覚悟したような声で、淡々と僕に現地の状況を伝えてくれた。
Our father had just returned to Kiev about 2 months ago for work, and his message that he sent was the first that I learned of what happened. It was just too sudden, with the sense of everything all of a sudden going blank. At the same time, I just wanted to hear his voice, and I rushed to telephone him. He answered right away, and I could hear his voice, and just that was enough to make me feel some kind of relief. However, the voice that I heard was completely different to how it had ever been before. It seemed to be full of a strong kind of anger or hatred, and with a kind of sense of awareness or knowing what was happening. It seemed that he just plainly told me about what the situation was like there.
最後に、とりあえずは大丈夫だ。安心しろ。と言って彼は電話を切った。僕は未だ気持ちの整理がつかないままだった。これは現実なんだろうか、夢ではないのか、そんな思いが頭を駆け巡る中、僕はテレビをつけた。だがそこに映った光景は僕の思いを一瞬にして打ち砕いた。現実だった。体中から血の気が引いていき、しばらくその場から動けなくなった。今まで重ねてきていた何かが僕の中で崩れていった。
At the end of the call, he just said, well, for now, we're fine, don't worry, and then ended the telephone call. I still could not gather my feelings, and I was thinking, is this really reality, or is this just a dream? With these kind of thoughts flying around in my head, I turned on the television, and the scenes that were on the screen completely shattered these thoughts in an instant. It was reality. I felt all the blood draw from my body, and I was frozen, unable to move.Something that had been built up over the years until then started to collapse within me.
ウクライナには数回しか行ったことがなかった。それでもウクライナ人の血が流れている自分にとって、それは母国であることに変わりはなかった。自分がこうして日本にいる間にも、馴染みのある町が破壊され、自分と同世代のウクライナ兵が命を落としていく。考えれば考えるほど、大きな無力さに襲われ、涙がこぼれ落ちた。そして自然と自分も戦いたい。ウクライナのためなら命を懸けてもいい。そんな思いが増していった。
I myself have only been to Ukraine a few times. However, as someone Ukrainian with Ukrainian blood flowing in me, it is still my home country. Even right now, while I'm here in Japan, the city, which is so familiar to me, is being destroyed. Ukrainian soldiers the same age as me are being killed. The more I thought about these things, I was overwhelmed with a feeling of helplessness and brought to tears. And suddenly I felt that I want to fight myself. I would be prepared to sacrifice even my life for the sake of Ukraine. These kind of feelings grew stronger inside me.
戦争が始まってから、ウクライナ国内では総動員令が出されたため、父親は国外に避難することができなかった。ただ、親戚の安全を確保する必要があったために、首都キエフを離れ、比較的安全な地域に避難した。父親とは毎日連絡を取り合っていたが、ある日電話で、俺は戦いに行く。絶対にこの国を守る。と僕に戦争に行くことを告げた。僕は止めなかった。止めても絶対に父親は行くと分かっていたからだ。
Since the war began, a mobilization order had been issued within Ukraine, and my father became unable to leave the country. However, because of the necessity to protect our relatives, he evacuated away from Kiev to a more relatively safe area. I was in contact with him every day, and one day, suddenly on the telephone, he said, "I'm going to fight, I'm going to protect this country," telling us of his decision to join the war. I did not stop him because I knew that even if I tried, he would still go.
続けて、ウクライナ人は絶対に負けないと僕に力強く言った。その時、幼い頃から言われていた言葉を思い出した。ウクライナ人であることを誇りに思え、その瞬間、その言葉の意味をようやく理解することができた。どんな困難にぶつかっても、国を守るため、家族を守るために戦う。これは、ウクライナ人として生まれた瞬間から体内にある本能などだと。
He continued and said firmly to me, "Ukrainians will never lose." This reminded me of the words that he had always shared since we were young. Be proud of being a Ukrainian. At that moment, I was finally able to understand the meaning of these words. No matter what difficulties you might face, to fight and protect your country and your family, that is the inner sense that is within every Ukrainian since the moment they are born.
そんな中、兄から義勇兵に志願することを動画で公表しようという提案が来た。兄にも同じ思いがあったのだ。僕らはすぐに動画を撮り、公開した。動画は大きな反響を呼んだ。戦争に行く決意をしたのは勇敢だ。戦争には絶対行かない方がいい。動画で情報を発信し続けた方が貢献できる。さまざまな意見がコメント欄で飛び交った。僕はすべての意見に賛同できた。
Then my brother proposed that we make a video together announcing that we would put up our hands to become volunteer soldiers. I realized then that my brother was feeling just as I was. We filmed the video right away and posted it online. It received a huge response with many comments, including, "It is brave of you to decide to go to war. You definitely should not go. Or you can contribute more by sharing information via your videos." I could agree with all of these opinions.
視聴者のさまざまな思いが痛いほど伝わった。しかし、そうするしかなかった。父親からもすぐに連絡が来た。お前たちが本当に誇らしい。でも、俺はキエフよりも東京の地で自分の息子たちと再会したいと。僕は何とも言えない複雑な感情に襲われた。どうしてこうなってしまったんだろうか。つい最近までの日常はどこに行ってしまったのか。戦争が本当に憎かった。
The messages of these messages of the viewers really reached me deeply in a way that was almost painful. However, that was all that I could do. Our father contacted us right away and said, "I'm so proud of you both, but more than in Kiev, I want to meet my sons again in Tokyo." I was filled with a complicated feeling, wondering why things were as they were, what happened to the everyday life which could be enjoyed until just the other day, and I truly despised this war.
数日後、父親は軍に入隊した。迷彩服を身にまとい、銃を肩にかけていた。写真に写る父親は、今まで見たことのない姿だった。お前たちが息子で本当によかった。この人生に後悔はない。そのようなメッセージが送られてきた。絶対に嫌だ。心の中で何回もこの言葉を繰り返した。
Several days later, our father signed up to join the army. The photograph of him wearing camouflage gear with a gun on his shoulder was so different to how we had ever seen him before. He sent us a message saying, "I'm so glad that you are my sons. I have no regrets in this life." I just kept repeating to myself over and over, "No, this is not how things should be."
父親がキエフに旅立つ前日、二人でお酒を飲み交わした記憶がよみがえる。あれが父親と会った最後の日になるかもしれない。納得がいくわけなかった。そんな考えが脳裏をよぎってしまった自分を殴りたかった。 僕らはお父さんのそばにいるよ。絶対に勝てるよ。涙をこらえ、震える手で文字を打ち、父親にメッセージを送信した。
I remembered the day before he had left for Kiev, drinking together with my father and talking. I could not accept that this might be the last time that I would ever see him, and I wanted to punch myself for even thinking such a thought. Holding back tears with hands shaking, I sent a message to him saying, "We are standing with you. You will certainly win."
戦争を止めるために僕らには何ができるのだろうか。兄はゲーム実況を通じて現地の情報発信、募金活動の呼びかけやチャリティーイベントを行っている。当初はゲームをしながらそのようなテーマに触れてよいのだろうか。そのような迷いが彼にはあった。しかしゲームという馴染みのあるコンテンツだからこそ、若い世代をはじめより多くの人に思いを届けることができるのではないかと考えたという。
What can we do to bring an end to this war? My brother, through game commentary videos, has been conveying information about the situation in Ukraine, calling for donations and holding charity events. At first, he was somewhat conflicted about whether it is really all right to talk about such issues while playing games. However, he thought that through using such a familiar content as games, it might be possible to reach more people, and particularly more young people.
批判の声ももちろんあった。誹謗中傷も絶えなかった。それでも兄は声を上げることをやめなかった。結果、子供たちが平和について考えるようになった。社会情勢について考えるきっかけを作ってくれてありがとう。そのような声が多数寄せられた。現実から目を背けることは簡単だ。問題と向き合うのか、または傍観者になるのか、決めるのは自分自身である。
Of course, there were some criticisms, and there was constant slanderous comments coming in as well. However, he continued to speak out. And as a result, he started to receive messages such as, "Our children have started to think about peace," or "Thank you for creating an opportunity for us to think about this social situation." It's easy to turn your eyes away from reality. But the question is, do you face up to the problems, or do you stand back as a bystander? And it is up to you to decide.
現在、世界は大きな分岐点に直面している。こうして時間が過ぎている間にも、罪のない人たちの命が奪われている。21世紀に戦争なんて絶対起こらない。その絶対が通用しないことはもう十分に分かったはずだ。
The world is now standing at a great turning point. Even as this time right now is passing, more innocent lives are being taken. But we know now that these ideas that such a war cannot happen in the 21st century is completely false.
これ以上の犠牲を生まないために、世界中の人たちと平和への第一歩を踏み出したい。一人一人の行動が明日の未来を変える。どんな些細なことでもいい。あなたのその行動が世界を救うのだ。
In order to prevent the loss of even more lives, I hope that people around the world can together take a step closer toward peace. The actions of each and every one of us can change tomorrow. Any small thing matters, and your action truly can save the world.
僕たちは戦い続ける。一日でも早くウクライナに日常が戻るように。一日でも早く父親と再会できるように。平和を願い、祈りを捧げる。ご清聴ありがとうございました。
We will continue our fight, our struggle, so that normality and life can return as soon as possible to Ukraine, and so that we can meet our father again as soon as possible. We will continue to hope and to pray for peace. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jan, for your very sober, emotional, passionate, intelligent speech there. Very different to your YouTube channel, but it was very, very, very good. Thank you. So anyway, we're going to open up the floor to questions. We have some online, but obviously we'd like to give priority to those in the room. Anyone have a question for the two guys? Yep, sure. Yes, please come here, yeah. And give your name and affiliation. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Katie Forster from Agence France Presse. I have two questions. One is whether you could maybe describe kind of your background a bit more. Why did your family come to Japan? And when you started making YouTube videos, what's the kind of age of your viewers? Who are your viewers? And then secondly, I wonder if you could speak a bit about how kind of YouTube and other non-mainstream media, how you think that's helping these viewers kind of access the news, and what's different about what you're doing compared to how they might access information about Ukraine. Thanks.
はい、では通訳いたします。アジェンスフランスプレスのケイティ・フォスターと申します。2点ほど質問があります。まず1つ目の方が、お二人の背景についてもう少しご説明いただければと思います。ご家族は、最初どういったきっかけで日本に来日されたのか、そして YouTube を、開始したとき、そして今も視聴者の、どのような方が見ているのか、大体どれぐらいの、年齢の方がその動画を見ているのかというのが1点目。そして2点目の方が、YouTube というツールを使われているんですけれども、従来のメインストリームメディアとはどういう点が違うのか、どういうふうに視聴者はその YouTube という、メディアを通して他で、アクセスができない情報などにどういうふうに、YouTube の特徴といいますか、その違う点についてぜひコメントお願いします。
質問に対してちょっと兄の澤からご回答させていただきたいと思います。まず1点目、僕らが日本に来た日本に来たきっかけというか、背景についてですが、もともと父親がすごい日本が好きで、大学の時に、日本語を結構勉強されてまして、で、いずれはいつか日本に行きたい、日本で仕事をしたい、で、まず単身赴任で日本に来て、当時はまだ日本語も、そこまで僕が今このようにインタビューにお答えしているレベルには到底ないような日本語で、拙い日本語で、現地でこう人脈を広げて仕事を見つけて、で、徐々にこう仕事が軌道に乗った時に家族を連れてきてという形で、僕らが今、ヤンは日本で生まれ、僕は4歳から日本にいることになりました。で、2点目の質問。
じゃあまず1点目に通訳します。So first of all, my name is Sawa. As an older brother, I'd like to respond to the question. The background or the reason that we came here to Japan, our father actually, originally he was quite a fan of Japan. He very much liked Japan and Japanese culture. He studied Japanese language at university and had the hope of one day working or living in Japan. So first of all, he actually came by himself. His Japanese language at the time was, of course, not as fluent as I am speaking here today. But with the language that he did have, he somehow managed to branch out, build a network, find work, and so on. And once he was able to have a certain amount of success in his work, then he was able to bring the rest of the family over as well. I was 4 years old at the time when we came, and my younger brother Jan was born here.
2点目ですね。YouTube の視聴者層に関してですが、本当に具体的に話しますと、一番多い層が18歳から24歳、25歳の、高校生から大学生、社会人1年目ぐらいの視聴者が約、40%で、それ未満が13歳から17歳ぐらいが約 20%、約それでも6割占めてて、それ以外はそれ以上の年齢の方々になります。主に男性が、これもどうなんですか、ちょっと興味あるかわからないんですけど、男性が約80%、女性が 20% になります。
And as to the viewers of our YouTube channels, to give some more concrete figures about that, the largest group of viewers are between 18 and 24 or 25 years old, mostly either high school students, university students, or perhaps in their first year out of school and working. That's about 40%. About 20% are aged between 13 and 17, and so that together brings to 60%, and the remaining would be people a little bit older than that as well. And about 80% of our audience viewers are men actually as well, and the remaining 20%, perhaps that's, they have more of an interest in these topics and so on, but that's the division of the viewers.
はい、そして3点目、YouTube で、今こういった現状を情報発信することに関して魅力というか、僕がすごくいいなと思っている点は、まず一つは現地にやはり父親がいて、リアルで起こっていること、その悲惨さであったりとか、その現状を本当に最新の状態でまず僕が聞けて、かつそれをすぐに視聴者に発信できる、多分どこの、ニュースメディアよりも、かなり早いんじゃないかな、かつ正確なんじゃないかなと思っておりまして、よく国によって少し情報が違ってあったりとか、ロシアでの発言、そしてウクライナ側のメディア、アメリカ側のメディアでいろいろ意見が食い違うところあるかもしれませんが、僕自身の発信する情報の主はやはり父親とか、現地の父親の友人から聞いた生の情報が主になるので、かなりストレートな、かなりリアルな内容になっておりますので、かなり視聴者からしてみても、非常に心に来るものがあるんじゃないかなと思ってるんで、やはりYouTube で発信することの、メリットっていうか、そういうところなのかなと思っております。
And as for the difference or sort of the merit of YouTube as a media as well, the kind of information that I'm conveying is this very real sort of information from the ground that our father is sharing with us about, the terrible situation that's there, but really this very up-to-date, actually what's really happening at that time. And then I'm able to stream that online almost immediately as well, right away as well. So I think in that sense, it's much faster, this kind of information, than a traditional news media, which would take more time. And it's also coming very directly from this information right on the ground at that time, so I would say it's also accurate in that sense as well. Of course, when it comes to the bigger, information, each different country would have their own statements. What's being said in the news or in Russia is different to in Ukraine, in the United States, and so on. There are differences in opinions and in positions and so on. But the kind of information that I'm sharing is, rather than those sorts of things, it's this very direct information that my father or his friends is telling me, and sharing that instantly as well, in a very direct and real way, in that personal way as well. So I think this means that for the viewers, it's something that can really, hit them right in the heart as well. They can have this very up-to-date and real information that's coming, and I think that's one of the merits of YouTube.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions from the floor? Yes.
こちらでも大丈夫です。
お世話になります。ネットメディア J キャストニュース編集部の滝川と思います。お二人に質問が2つあります。まず、ツイッター上である企業にスポンサーになってくださいと呼びかけておりましたが、スポンサーを求めている理由についてお聞かせください。また日本企業に望むことなどがありましたらお聞かせいただきたいと思います。続いて、お父様についてです。お父様にはたびたびウクライナ人であることを誇るように言い聞かせられたと伺いましたが、お二人がウクライナ人として誇っていることを詳しくお聞かせください。また二人にとってお父様はどんな人でしょうか。またどんな点を尊敬しているか詳しくお聞かせください。お願いいたします。
To briefly translate into English from GCAS News, I have two questions for both of you. First of all, you made a post on Twitter calling for a particular company to sponsor you. I would like to ask if you have any particular reason for requesting this sponsorship, and also if you have anything that you would like to call upon Japanese corporations to do. And second, you referred to your father always calling on you to be proud of being Ukrainian. I'd like to ask, well, first of all, what do you feel as a Ukrainian about what is happening now? And also, what kind of presence is your father to you? What does he mean? What is it about him that you respect? And so on.
はい、ご質問ありがとうございます。おそらくスポンサーの件に関しては今回のこの、話にあまり関係のないことなのかなと思ってます。多分おそらく、昨日か一昨日ぐらいの DNA さんのツイートですよね。野球選手がかなり僕たちの YouTube での挨拶を発信してくださってたので、より密に何かお互い寄り添って面白いことができないかなという意味合いでああいうツイートをさせていただきました。2点目、
So first of all, in regards to the first question, I don't think it's directly so much related to the actual current situation or the issue of Ukraine that I've been talking about, but it was perhaps yesterday or so on when we had the post about DNA. The aspect there is many baseball players and so on have been sharing our message information and so on and having this kind of exchange in that. So I was we were reaching out thinking perhaps there's something more closer that we could do together at this time.
2点目、ウクライナ人として、誇りに思っていること、 のことなんですけれども、現状やはりまた世界中の皆様が見て分かる通り、ウクライナの、国民が、何も恐怖もいろいろある中で、母国を守るために、僕らと同世代の人たちから僕らの父親世代の人たちまでがこう戦場の第一線に立って、武器を持って母国を守っているその姿にまずものすごいこう誇りに思うのはもう当然のことですし、それが一番強いっていうのと、あとはそのなんていうんですかね、僕らは日本にいますけれども、ヤンの方からもその義勇兵の話もあった通り、自分たちも同じぐらいの熱量で、同じことは正直こうすごい遠い国なんで同じことがすぐにできるかって言ったらちょっと難しいかもしれないですけど、僕たちも同じような気持ち、同じような覚悟で戦ってるんだぞっていうことを、世界に向けてもメッセージを送りたかったですし、やはり僕ら自身も現地にいる人々からすごいパワーをもらってて、そういった部分でもやはりウクライナ人に生まれてきてよかったな、僕たちの国の人たちは勇敢で本当に強いなっていうことは日々感じております。ちょっと答えになってるかわからないんですけど大丈夫でしょうか。
And as for the second question about what we are, proud of as a Ukrainian, of course, as the world or people around the world are seeing in this current situation, despite, of course, great fear about what is happening at the moment, the people of Ukraine, including people of the same generation of us, of our father's generation, are really now, on the front. They're protecting our country at the moment, doing all that they can, and that is something which have a deep pride when seeing this. And that I think is the strongest fact as well, seeing them really on the front lines protecting the country. The second point, of course, we are, now here in Japan, and Jan was talking about, signing up as volunteer soldier and so on as well. But having this, we wanted somehow to convey that even though we may be far away, having this same passion and sharing this message to the world as well, that we are receiving such a great amount of energy or power from hearing from people on the ground in Ukraine as well, and just seeing how brave and strong they are is something that we're very proud of.
3点目、父親の、リスペクトするところは、僕先ほど父親が日本に来たきっかけに、関して僕が軽く触れさせていただいたんですけども、やはり言葉もろくに喋れないで、現地の知り合いも全くいない国に単身赴任で来て、でそこで仕事を見つけて家族を養おうとするその覚悟、そしてその行動力、そこもやはり勇気ある行動ですし、それを実際に実現して家族を連れてきて今僕たちはこうやってこの場に座ってスピーチできていることは、紛れもなく、父親の努力が実ったと、僕たちは信じたいですし、やはりそういったところはやはり父親には感謝してもしきれないところではありますし、やはりすごく誇りに思ってますし、自慢の父親だなと思っております。
And as to our respect for our father, as I mentioned before about the background of his coming to Japan, but coming somewhere where, not speaking the language very much, not knowing anybody here at all on his own, somehow finding a job, finding a way to support, bring his family over, I think is something which requires a great amount of dedication and also the power to take action as well, and it also needs courage at the same time. And it is, thanks to that we are, able to be here speaking with you today in this way as well. So I'm, so grateful so much to him that even it's difficult to express for words, but I think that this is really a testament to his, hard work and dedication over the years, and for that we are deeply grateful and also proud.
Okay, I'm just going to ask a couple of online questions and then maybe go back to the floor. So the first question is from Pio De Emilia from Sky TV Italy. Are you happy with what Japan has done so far, or would you like Japan to do more to help Ukraine, such as sending weapons like some European countries have done?
で次、オンラインの方で届いている質問を紹介いたします。最初、スカイテレビイタリアのピオ・デミリオという記者からの質問です。日本政府が今まで貢献したことをやってきたことには満足されていますでしょうか。またはヨーロッパの、国のように武器なども日本から送るべきというふうに思われますでしょうか。
ご質問ありがとうございます。満足しております、正直な話で。やはり日本、僕たちも、僕が4歳、ヤンは日本 に生まれて育ってるんですけども、やはり日本は世界的に見ても、トップクラスに平和な国だと僕たちも感じておりますし、やはり時間問わずどこを歩いても、何の心配もいらない、もちろん今ちょっと極端な言い方ですけれども、僕たち自身日本に暮らしてきてそう感じている部分があるんで、やはりそういった世界的に見ても最も平和な国が今起こしているアクションっていうのは、至極真っ当なもので、金銭的な支援であったりとか、あと防弾ジョッキ、最近ですとガスマスクの支給であったりとか、いろんな話が出てますけれども、やはり武器を送るっていうことは、日本が担うべき役割ではないんじゃないかなと僕個人的に思ってますし、やはりそういった平和を訴え続けること、そして他の国々に問題意識を持たせて、アジアの中でもリーダーシップを発揮して平和を訴え続けることが今日本が一番やるべきことであって、それは現状、かなり速いスピード感で、もちろんもっとできるだろうっていう声もあると思うんですけれども、僕の中ではもう本当にありがたい家系ですし、もうウクライナ国民にとってもすごく力になっていると思っております。
To be honest, I am indeed happy with what Japan is doing this far, as well as, for me having come to Japan since I was 4 years old and my brother Jan having been born here, we can say that living in Japan, this is, even from a global perspective, one of the really, top class peaceful countries. To put it in maybe an extreme way, you can walk anywhere and feel safe at any time of day and so on as well. So I think that the action that such a peaceful country that Japan can take, or what it is doing now, is indeed appropriate. This kind of financial support, or also, the provision of items such as bulletproof vests or gas masks more recently as well. As to whether Japan should be sending weapons, I do not think that that is the kind of role that Japan as the country should be playing personally. I think that Japan can have more of a contribution as this peaceful country to appeal for the need to peace, to raise awareness within other countries as well, and to play a kind of leadership role within Asia. And I do appreciate, I think that Japan is doing this much so far, and it is indeed in both an appropriate way for the country of Japan, and doing so in a very fast way as well, for which we and as Ukrainians are deeply grateful. Of course, there may be voices saying that more could be done, but we are very happy with what Japan is doing at the moment.
Okay, I have another online question here. This is from Isabel Reynolds at Bloomberg News. Japan's Justice Minister is heading to Poland this week and may bring back some refugees from Ukraine. Can you imagine a lot of Ukrainians will take up this offer from Japan? And what difficulties may they face living in Japan?
次ブルームバーグのイザベル・レノッズ記者からの質問です。今週日本の法務大臣がポーランドの方を訪問して、ウクライナの難民、避難者をまた日本に連れてこられるかもしれないということが報道されています。そのような、日本に行くというオファーを、受け入れるウクライナ人は、たくさんいるというふうに、想像としては考えられますか。またはそのようなウクライナの避難者の方が日本に来られた場合にどのような、課題ですとか難しさに直面されるのでしょうか。
はい、質問ありがとうございます。僕たちが実際にヤンも僕もウクライナに行ったことあるんですけども、簡単なその日本に対するどういったイメージを抱かれているのかっていう方も、結構ご存じない方多いと思うんで、僕の方から、僕が、現地にいてもちろん軽く自己紹介するときに俺日本から来たんだよねっていうと、第一声としては日本日本っていう簡単に言うとその夢の国のようなみんなが行きたいと思っているような国っていうイメージを抱かれている人が正直多いです。やはり最先端、そして日本食とか寿司とか、ヨーロッパでもウクライナでもそういった和食のお店が結構立ち並ぶんで、日本にものすごくいい印象を抱いている人々ものすごく多いです。なんでその難民が日本に来るってなった時に、それに対して日本は嫌だとかそういった感情を抱く人は本当少ないと思っております。でまたその日本にもし難民で入った時にやはり問題になってくるのは、一番は、まず言葉の壁。やはり父親が日本に最初来た時にも感じたように、やはり英語がすんなり通じるところは、まだ完璧というか かなりそこはまだ課題があるのかなと個人的に思っておりますし、あとは食文化、やはり食事は僕自身が4歳で初めて日本に来た時も、驚く方も多いかもしれませんが、やはり白米ご飯すらまともに食べれなかったっていうのを今でも覚えております。これは僕だけなのかもしれませんが、やはりそういったちょっと直面はあるかもしれないですけれども、何よりもそういう細かい課題は、細かいで大きな課題なのかもしれないんですけれども、それよりもやはり、日本の人たちのこの寄り添う姿勢、そしてウクライナの人たちの一生懸命なところは今でも世界的に見ても皆様も感じるところあると思うんで、そういったお互いの寄り添う姿勢は、そういった課題を、どんな形であれ結構すぐ解決してくれると思ってるんで、ちょっとまず答えがずれてしまったんですけれども、課題はありますけれども、難民が日本に来られた場合は僕たちもできることを一生懸命やっていきたいと思います。
And for both Jan and myself, we have, of course, been to Ukraine on many occasions. And on this time, well, I'd like to share a little bit about what the general image of Japan that people in Ukraine have, because that's perhaps something that not so many people here are aware of. So for me, when I go there, whenever I'm, introducing myself and saying, I'm come from Japan, I live in Japan, they always say first, well, oh, Japan? That Japan? It's almost like it's a kind of dream country to a lot of people as well. It's a place that everybody wants to visit, and, it has this image of, being very high-tech, Japanese food, sushi, there's many Japanese restaurants in Ukraine. So there's, on the whole, a very positive impression, I think, that most Ukrainians have of Japan. So as to whether if there was an opportunity to come to Japan, I think for most refugees, or there would be very few who would have sort of a negative impression or would want to say, oh, no, that's, we wouldn't want to go there. I don't think that would be many people. But as to, of course, the different difficulties that they might face on coming to Japan, the primary one would be, of course, the language barrier. When I think about when our father came here as well, not speaking Japanese fluently yet as well, and Japan is still a country where English, well, there are still many challenges, even in, English being understood and conveyed in many places as well. So I think that language would, of course, be the greatest challenge for people. The second also would be, the food, the different things which are eaten here and so on. It might be surprising now, but for me, even when I came at 4 years old, I couldn't eat white rice at all. It was, maybe that's just me personally, but these different, getting used to the different foods and so on would, of course, also be a challenge for people coming as well. So there are these many, detailed, or I'm not sure if I should call them small or big challenges as well, but more than that, or greater than that, the sort of empathy of Japanese people in being able to, feel for people, to work with them as well. And of course, people around the world are seeing the, the dedication or the spirits of the Ukrainian people at the moment as well. So I think that with the spirits of both of those people, they would be able to, cooperate in a way to overcome any of these kinds of challenges that may be faced as well. Of course, there would be difficulties, but these can indeed be resolved through the cooperation of the Japanese and Ukrainian people, I believe. And we also would, of course, want to do anything at all that we could to support such people as well.
Thank you. Any more questions from the floor? You can ask in, yeah.
朝日新聞の川崎と申します。3点お伺いさせてください。まず寄付についてなんですが、ウクライナ大使館、在日ウクライナ大使館に集めたお金を寄付されていたと聞いたんですが、どのようにお金を集めて、これまでにどれぐらいの金額を寄付されたか教えてください。で、あともう1点が、2月の22日にお父さんからやっぱり始まったというメッセージが来たとおっしゃっていたんですが、実際その侵攻が始まったのって24日だと思うんですが、その22日にお父様は何を見てそう始まったと思ったのかを教えてください。で、最後に義勇兵の志願についてなんですけど、その志願をしますと言ってからその日本人の若者からどんな反応があったかというのと、その感想についてどう思ったかについて教えてください。
My name is Kawasaki of the Asahi Shimbun. I have 3 questions. The first is about the donations. We understand that you have been raising money to be donated to the Embassy of Ukraine here in Japan. We'd like to ask what method and about how much has been raised. The second is, Jan mentioned in his speech, the first time you realized that this had begun was a message from your father on the 22nd of February, but it said that the declaration of the invasion began on the 24th. So what was it that he saw or experienced on the 22nd that really showed that this was indeed beginning? And the third, I would like to ask, after you're making a statement that you would volunteer as soldiers, what kind of response did you have from young Japanese people, and what is your comment about that?
はい、ご質問ありがとうございます。まず1点目、寄付に関してなんですけれども、いろんな、まずもともとは、一番最初に僕たちが寄付したのが、おそらくアンカーのやつだよね。日本の、貧困で苦しんでいる子どもたちに、50万円、そしての UNHCR の団体に50万円、そこ100万円を当時からもうなんか、そういう動きがもう徐々に見え始めた時からまず、もうすぐさまに僕たちができることなんだろうという思いでまず、総額100万円ほど寄付させていただきました。で最近ですと僕今スーツ着てネクタイ着て真面目に質疑応答に答えているので普段はゲーム実況で楽しくゲームしているものなんですけれどもそのマリオカートというゲームを通じて、自分に何かできることはないのかなっていうことでいろいろ考えた中で、生配信を一度やったことがございましてその時にYouTube で投げ銭機能というものがございましてその生配信を見ている視聴者がお金を投げてくれる機能がございましてそちらの機能を使ってチャリティー生配信という形で僕が楽しくゲームをしながら僕の視聴者と一つになって戦争をやめようということを訴えるゲームを通して戦争反対の意思を発信するという配信を行ったところ約3時間で360万円ほど集まりましてでその全額をウクライナ大使館の方に寄付させていただきました。でまたあと今3日前ほど前かなそうか通訳さん大丈夫ですか僕今全部答えちゃってますけど
とりあえず大丈夫です。
はい3日ほど前に僕たちが主催するゲームの大会がございましてそちらの方で、オリジナルパーカーを、販売させていただきましてそちらの売り上げも利益もすべて寄付させていただく予定です。まだちょっと集計中なので具体的にいくらになるか分かりませんが、結構な額になると思っているのでそちらも全額寄付、させていただく予定でございます。
So first of all, in regards to the donations from the very beginning, first of all, we had two different sort of donation drives, and we raised 500,000 yen for an organization which supports disadvantaged children, and also 500,000 yen for the UNHCR at the very beginning. So that was a total of 1 million yen as this first step. And today I'm here speaking to you, with a serious, wearing a suit and so on. But usually on YouTube, of course, I'm, playing video games, having fun, and this kind of way. So usually playing Mario Kart, I started to think, well, what is it that we can do using this as a tool to raise money as well? And on YouTube, there is a function for during live streamings, the viewers can make a donation directly, as a function as part of within that YouTube as well. So we decided to have a live sort of gaming, live Mario Kart show as well, and using that as a function for charity, and together with the viewers, playing the game together and sending this message of no war. And within 3 hours of that live charity show, we were able to raise 3.6 million Japanese yen, and this was donated in full to the Embassy of Ukraine here in Japan. And just around 3 days ago, we also organized a gaming event that we organized as well. And as part of that, we sold some original hoodies, and all of the funds from this will also be donated as well. We're still in the process of calculating how much was actually raised, so I don't have the figures now, but that will also all be donated.
そして3つ目の質問ですね、義勇兵に関して、動画を上げたときにですね、ヤンのスピーチにもあったようにいろんな声が届いた中で、若者からは僕たちの中で驚きだったのが、結構長文でものすごく、真面目な、メッセージが多数いただいてその中に多かったのが、僕たちも一緒に行くと、サワヤンと一緒に、僕たちも行くと、僕今中学3年生ですというその本当に僕たちのメッセージとかを心で聞いてくれてるような中学生高校生がものすごく多くて、正直それを聞いて、 複雑でしたね。嬉しい気持ちもありますけれども、自分がこう動画でメッセージを発信することによってこう戦いたいという、良くも悪くも戦いたいという気持ちを子どもたちの中で芽生えさせてしまっているのは、果たしていいことなのか悪いことなのかっていうのは、現状僕もはっきりということはできないんですけれども、少なからずこう今世界中で起きていることに対して問題意識を持ってくれていることにはそれは間違いないなということで、僕の中ではそこはすごく意味のあることだと思ってますし、これからもそういう問題意識何かを変えたい、もちろん、実際に戦場に行って戦うことが全てではないとも思ってますし、やはりこう第三者としてできることというのは、何か必ず一つあるだろうし、それに対してこう考えることになるきっかけ、考えることをするきっかけにはなったのかなと思っております。
And the question about the responses to our stating that we wanted to join as volunteer soldiers, we were quite surprised actually that we received a number of very long and very serious messages from young people, including even from third year junior high school students saying, if you're going, we're going to sign up, we're going to go and fight as well. So in one sense we could see that this meant that our message really reached them, that they could understand the sincerity or the significance of this. But to be honest, it's quite complicated, of course. Complex feeling receiving these kind of messages as well. In one sense, of course, we're glad to have their support, but at the same time, of course, is it okay that we're perhaps making these young people feel even that they also want to go and fight? That's something which is not really clear to me in a way. But what is certain is, of course, it is meaningful to at least be providing an opportunity for people to think about what is happening in the world, to think about these issues, and as some sort of starting to think about what they can do to make a difference. And of course, going to fight is not the only way to do this as well. There are many different things that a third party can do to make some kind of a contribution, and anybody can make some kind of change. So in that regards, thinking that we perhaps created this opportunity for people to think about these issues is something which does have a meaning.